Hello, my name is Kurt Huwig and I will give you 10 tips for successful mobile development. There will be special attention to time, as time not only changes things, but also which solution is the best for a given problem. So, who's the guy talking to you? I'm the Android chapter lead at Consumer IoT of Deutsche Telekom. I'm a software developer for 37 years now and I have seen the rise and fall of many technologies. I started Android development before the first devices were available and still have my G1 phone. So, what did I mean with special attention to time? Is it the ominous time to market? No, it's the time to live of your software. There's obviously a difference if you write a quick test, a prototype, or an app that shall exist for many years. If the lifespan of the software is limited, then you don't need to care for much. Just write it, run it, and forget it again. If you write something that should last for years, you have to be much more careful about how you implement it. This is something that broke the neck of many startups. You can come up with something pretty quick and have impressive results. But this comes at the cost of huge technical debts, and they will come crushing down on you if you don't tackle them early. Unfortunately, there are serial startup developers that leave such a mess behind while having a long list of apparently successful projects as the problems become obvious after they've left. So there are developers that have a long experience and never have written any sustainable code. Stay away from them. They are toxic for your project. What's the tip here? Think about how long your project will exist and base your decision upon this. We need an app. We need an app. I've heard this sentence pretty often. My usual response then is, why? And as it turns out, for many applications, a simple mobile web page is more than enough. So, why would you need an app? You need it when your software needs to be able to do things in the background. Think of a WhatsApp message or email synchronization. You don't really want to wait for a good online connection to send and receive your messages. You expect your device to download new messages automatically, inform you that something is there, and transmit your answers as soon as possible. You don't want to reload or get a try again later screen. That's the job of the software. Same for things like reminders, geolocation, etc. Also, you won't believe how many apps are just a simple web view that loads a fixed web page. So, before you go through the hassle of creating and deploying an app in the app stores, think carefully if you really need that. Okay, so you need an app. Then you should have experts for the native look and feel. Just like applications on Windows look different and are used slightly differently than on macOS, mobile apps look and feel differently on iOS and Android. Unfortunately, some developers seem not to know or not to care about this, and their apps tend to become more a point-and-click adventure than intuitively usable apps. If you cannot get experts because your team is too small, then a good approach to avoid this mistake is to look at the standard apps on each operating system and try to find a screen that does something similar than what you try to achieve. Then try to mimic its look and feel. The additional benefit is that the standard behavior is better supported by the standard tools and also more robust and future-proof than reinventing the wheel. If you read blogs on the web, everybody wants to sell you their approach as the best in the world. Do React Native and everything will be just fine. No, use Mono, use Kotlin, use Flutter. In reality, this usually does not work out as well once you get beyond the scope of the tutorials. My tip here. Look at the skills of your developers. What are they expert in? You can save a few hours by using some fancy new technology just to waste days and weeks finding an obscure bug because you're not familiar enough with the pitfalls and known bugs of the new stuff. Also, you don't only need something to build the app, you also need to debug it, test it, document it, refactor it, deploy it, get insights, etc. If the tool support there is weak, you will waste a lot of time fiddling with the tools to get them working. Clean code. My tip here. Force your developers to read and understand the book from day one. Next slide, please. No, really. I've seen a lot of code that was really hard to understand and error-prone. This book contains a lot of simple tips and tricks on how to make your code better. And while you're on it, also read Follow's book on refactoring. Whenever I need to change something and it's not simple to do, I refactor the code until it is. Should I use the JSON I get from the network to put data in my UI? It is simple and easy to extend. If your project is short-lived, then yes, go for it. If your project shall last for longer, then definitely not. Shall you mix the layout, style, and functionality in the same lines of code? React Native, I'm looking at you. Same answer. Yes, if you don't care for quality. No, if you need to maintain it for longer. My tip, get someone on your team really good at the solid principles and let them participate in the code reviews. This knowledge will spread pretty quickly to the other developers and make them happy. I can tell many stories about developers violating those principles. Once I pointed out, they say, yes, I had a gut feeling that something is wrong here. Then they will rework the code and come back 2 hours later with a smile on their face and a solid solution. The book Clean Architecture puts the solid principles into a bigger picture and helps you to understand the background and how to convey the contents. Software development is a very repetitive process. This makes it easy to automate, and so you should do. When you automate things, make sure that they produce reliable results. This means they are repeatable with the same result. If your build process downloads stuff from the internet, it's not repeatable. Get a software artifact repository like Nexus and version everything you use. Never ever have a dependency labeled latest or snapshot. You'll have a hard time finding out what you shipped exactly. This allows you to know exactly what has changed in your software, which is half the way to the reason why something suddenly fails. The same applies to your automated tests. Do you have a test that sometimes fails? What do you do then? Run it again? Then delete this test, as the outcome of it has no effect on you, so it's worthless. It's fine to delete tests if they have no benefit. Get over it. Did I mention automated tests and reproducible builds? Automation is the key to get this. You should automate as much as possible. For builds, this became quite standard in the past 10 years. For tests, especially in mobile environments, this is still a challenge. I recommend to follow the Pareto principle. If you can get an 80% solution with 20% of the effort, then go for it. You will find another 80% solution for the remaining 20% and so on. Don't let a "but with X we cannot do Y" get in your way. And don't refrain from using tricks to get to your goal. Anything that works is allowed. Why do we use tools like Git? To have a place where to store our code? Because management requires it? As a developer, I only use a tool when it helps me to be more lazy. What is the benefit of a version control system? I can tell the 5 W's: who, when, what, why, and where. This helps a lot if you try to understand code. You get information about why the code is like it is. But this information does not come for free. You have to be disciplined in your usage of the tool. Just like you format your code properly, you should create meaningful commit entries. Look at the examples here. Do you know what happened in the commits on the left side? I have no idea, so they are worth nothing. They are just noise without a benefit. Look at the commit on the right side. Can you answer the 5 W's? Who, when, what, why, and where? Okay, for the where you probably need to look into the commit itself, but the rest is clear. Follow the link and learn how to get the full benefit of your version control system. Did I mention automated tests before? You really should have them, but chances are that you also need manual tests. Also, tests need time to execute. What you want is to spread out your tests over several technologies and scopes. I recommend to have a test that just clicks through all the parts of the app. This test covers a lot of code lines and executes pretty quickly. This suits as a good smoke test to see if you broke the app. The downside is that when it fails, you usually don't know why, because this test is very unspecific. This is where the unit tests come in. They take longer to execute and are very specific. When they fail, they exactly pinpoint to the code that fails. Therefore, they are not an alternative to each other, they support each other. In between, you have the system tests, where you test a complete subsystem. Here, mocks come in very handy. I use these mocks and their tests to ensure a stable interface. The mock describes the expected behavior and the test verifies it. I can run the test against the mock and against the real system and expect it to pass. I can run my app against a mock in the real system and expect it to work identically. This way you have the double benefit of faster tests and stable, reliable interfaces. And you will be surprised how often backend systems suddenly return different answers than before. So, here we are. These are my 10 tips for successful mobile applications. You now know that time is an important aspect for the software development. Be quick and dirty if you want to test something. Be clean and solid if you build to stay. Decide if you really need an app, and if you do, get some experts on it so that your app does not become a point-and-click adventure, but instead is boring in the sense of I immediately understand how it's used and I know what will happen when I click on something. Look at your workforce and then decide what tools to use. Don't do it the other way around, which is get a solution and then find a problem for it. Stand on the shoulders of giants and leverage the collected knowledge of software engineering to quickly write code that's easy to maintain. Clean code and a clean architecture are a very good start to achieve this goal. Do things only once. If you need to do them twice, automate them in a reproducible way. This will save you much more time than you initially think, and it contributes significantly to stable releases. It also takes away the fear to release a new build, which is a very good thing. Nobody likes to be afraid, especially when things go south. Leverage every tool you have to write awesome software. Use the VCS to document why the code is like it is. Development teams change more often than you like them to change. Having information in the VCS is a good way to reduce knowledge drained from the project. Test your code and test it automatically. Time invested in tests pays off a lot. There will be an initial invest to get things flying, that's for sure. But it's a good invest that pays off quickly. That's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'd like to hear your opinion about these tips and be happy if you'd follow me on Twitter or connect on LinkedIn. Stay happy.